And everything that's happened since my accident, I genuinely feel like I've been reborn. Being able to look back on the past and your past story and whatever it is that you're going through, whatever darkness it is, and believe me, you have to sit in it sometimes. You have to feel the pain. And that's okay. Like, sit in it for as long as you need, but don't stay in it forever.
Seanydoo. Hello, and welcome to Situaseans podcast. I'm your host, Sean Michael Williams, aka Seanydoo. You can call me Sean, Shawnee, Seanydoo. Does not matter to me. I'm just glad that y'all are here. I have a special guest here, Talia Lazarus, all the way from the UK. Thanks for coming on.
It's my absolute pleasure. Yeah, all the way from the UK. We got the time difference ready. We're sorted.
Exactly. All the great things. Yeah, and thanks so much for coming onto the podcast. Love having another creator as such as yourself, a broadcaster, a presenter, a podcaster yourself. You have so many different avenues. Can you tell our audience about who you are and what you do?
I mean, you said it so nicely for me. But yes, so my name's Talia Lazarus and I am a presenter, a broadcaster. I have a podcast. My podcast is called, I'll bring it up already. It's called I Got Back Up. It's a mental health podcast of life stories. And actually everything I'm doing and everything I've just said, I've only started doing in the last few years. And that's actually all because of an accident I had that changed the whole course of my life 3.5 years ago. But yeah, it's amazing how something in life can just change everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even just looking at your Instagram page on for your podcast and just like the guests that you've talked to and how they've overcome so many adversities and how they've, made those adjustments to get back to, I guess, somewhat of a normal life. And just, yeah, I think it's really important how your podcast outlines, the importance of keep going, never give up, and just like, I guess, restoring hope in like humanity and all of us. So I really appreciate, what you've been doing out there.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And that's exactly what it is. It's showing that, well, what I say is that in life, we can't have light without dark. And we have to understand and go through our dark phases in life and learn how to love them or appreciate them and to embrace them. Because once we've been through dark, we then really know what happiness is. Like, when you feel that euphoria, that peace, that happiness, when you've been through the dark times, it's all you pray for. So when you get it, you're like, how it really feels.
Absolutely. Yes. I love how you put that. And for any returning listeners or any new listeners here, just letting you know that this is Situations podcast. We talk about we talk about life experiences, dating, relationships, all this stuff that make us and who we are. And for this particular episode, we're going to be talking about life experiences and how you can change your life for the better. And so kind of just starting off, so since we kind of touched up on as far as like where you're located, you're in the UK. Love that. So I want to know, like, did you grow up in the UK, like what part? And just tell me some things about like your favorite some of your favorite things about the UK.
So I've grown up in UK. I've grown up in a place called Hertfordshire, which is just north of London. So it's kind of can be in North London, depending on where you are. And I kind of where I am, where I've grown up is that space where it's close enough to get into the center of London, into town. So you're close enough, you can drive, you can get the train in, but also it's an area where there's fields, there's farms, there's forests, there's golf courses, there's parks, and that's what I love. I think it's so important. I love the city. I love cities all over the world, but I also love the outdoors. And I think growing up and being around that is so lovely because you get to go for a walk in a park and it's not always, a very busy central London park where it's flooded with tourists. Sometimes it's just there's no one else in the park and it's you in the park and even things like that. And I've always loved growing up where I have. And I love London. There's so many places all over the world I love, but I do love London. I love how diverse it is, how different it is, how north, south, east, and west are completely different walks of life. And they have completely different atmospheres. And it's funny because there was one time where I walked from West London all the way through Central, all the way to East London. And it was like going through different countries just in the space of one day of how different London is. So if yourself or people haven't been, if you ever get a chance, I would 100% say come. It's so much fun to do as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I've never been to London, like never been anywhere in Europe yet, but I hope I hope to visit like one day. I had some tentative plans to visit probably by fall of this year, so hoping that I can still make that happen because like yeah, I've heard so many great things and just seeing like the like pictures or even just like TV shows and stuff like that. I'm like, I need to be there. Like I want the experience.
100%. And that's that. I guess the nicest thing is depending on whether what TV shows you've watched, there are so many different parts of London, but also the UK that it's funny because even as Brits and someone from London, I haven't always been to a lot of places in the UK, and I meet a lot of people from elsewhere all over the world who've been to more places in England than I have. I guess it's that thing where we think of getting on a plane instead of just driving 20 minutes down the coast and things like that.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And even just like traveling in general, like do you have like places that you love to like to leisure travel to like anywhere in the world?
I mean, I'm not just saying this, but I love America. I'm not just saying. I love, love, love America. I've been going to Florida since I was a little girl, growing up in Florida. I was actually in Orlando at the beginning of the year on a work trip, but I got the Monday off and I took myself to Walt Disney World. The best day I had. And I've always loved America. But if we think about Europe as well, I'd say my favorite country in Europe is Italy. I love Italy. I love the culture. I love the food. I mean, Italian food is just something else. And when you have Italian food in Italy, it's like a dream come true. I absolutely love it there. And one of my favorite places in the entire world is the Dolomites mountain range in Italy. And it's almost like a slice of heaven. It's just the most picturesque, magnificent, magical place. Just I think that I've ever seen so far. There's many places I want to go in the world, but so far it's just divine.
Absolutely, yeah. I need to get out there as well. Like I've been to like the Bahamas, been to like Mexico and like a few other like tropical places. But yeah, I need to like I need to get get some more use out of my passport. And I think like just and I think you just advertised Europe pretty well. So I'm sure our listeners are already getting their passports ready. So
Well, you can well, the thing is with Europe is you can land in one country and you can get trains pretty much everywhere throughout. So
yeah, the trains are pretty fast. You all have like those bullet trains and everything. Yeah.
I traveled from France to Switzerland to Italy all via trains during one trip myself. So yeah, you just land and then you keep going.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. And so, like even just like going back to like some of your experiences. So, you've had some different obstacles that you've had to overcome like throughout the course of your life. And, to get to where you are today, I kind of want to know, and that even just on your IG, you had showed that, you went through double knee surgery and some other things. Can you kind of share with our audience a little bit more about that? And like, what was that recovery journey like, and how did you find a way to get back up?
Mm, yeah, nicely put there. I so long story, I'll make it short because it's very long unless we have hours. But back in August 2021, I get the dates confused now. Back in August 2021, I lost control on that, stand up electric scooter that you hold on to. I lost control. I veered into a curb, bounced off the curb, veered into a bus, whacked a bus, and then pretty much the next thing I remember doing is while on a moving vehicle that I couldn't slow down, I couldn't stop. I don't actually know what happened realistically. I look back and I don't actually know what happened. I put my left leg down to stop this moving vehicle, and I guess putting something down flat and stationary while on something moving, I just catapulted into the road.
Oh
Um,
no.
I remember landing on my left knee. And to this day, I can't tell you how many seconds I was rolling with the scooter in the middle of the road. I genuinely can't tell you because the next thing I remember is rolling and then two strangers picking me off the side of the road. My leg was out in the road, and I just remember, I mean, your brain knows, and I remember my mind thinking, looking at my leg, being like, this is not good. And that was the accident that I mentioned earlier. So the paramedics came to the scene, they bent my leg, and this is I'm actually gonna just make a note, because this might be a bit squeamish. So I'm just letting people know, because people wince when I say this, but it's nothing bad. Well, it is. But the paramedics came to the scene, they bent my leg, and they said, nothing looks broken. They asked me if I could walk to the ambulance, and I said, I don't know, can I walk to the ambulance? I asked them. They said, yeah, I'd be fine. So I put both my arms over the paramedic's shoulders. I took one step on my left leg, and my ankle went one direction and my knee went the other direction. And then my leg came back together like cooked spaghetti.
Wow. Oh my
And
goodness.
I looked down at that moment, which has definitely stayed with me and scarred me. But I looked down at that moment, and I mean, if I wasn't already in shock, then I think that was the tipping point.
Wow.
That was the tipping point. But I was put on a stretcher in the back of an ambulance. And it's funny, because the whole theme of your podcast and what I'm doing, and everything we've already discussed and will continue to discuss, is, so I'm in the back of the ambulance, and we've got to the hospital, and I'm being wheeled into the hospital from the ambulance. I'm on the stretcher. The accident might have been, again, couldn't tell you how long it took in the ambulance, 20, 30 minutes, 10 minutes ago. We're waiting at reception in the in the hospital. And I was with a friend of mine, and to this day, I can't believe I said this. I looked up at my friend and I went, everything happens for a reason. And they looked at me and they went, can you tell me what this reason is? And I said, I don't know yet, but I'm going to go figure it out. And that was the beginning of I actually think that was the beginning of the rest of my life, and the beginning of what was only going to be just tough darkness for a very long time. So a month later, I was rushed in for knee surgery, where I did my ACL, my MCL, my meniscus. So 2 ligaments. I did my cartilage, bone bleeding, bone bruising, internal bleeding, internal bruising, literally anything you can do to your leg. So I was rushed in for surgery. I say rushed in, but that's because we didn't get the scans read properly until a month later. And that's when they were like, you need to have surgery now. So I was rushed in. I had my cartilage fixed, which was amazing. But at this point, I wasn't even bearing weight. I wasn't allowed to bear any weight on my legs. And it wasn't until about, I would say, a month or 2 later that I was at my physio, and he said, right, it's time to walk. And I was like, no, I'm not walking. I'm okay. I'm fine. And, the last time I put pressure through my left leg, it buckled. And I remember saying, no, I'm okay. And he was like, no, Talia, you are strong enough to do this. I was like, no. I remember I was like, no, I'm not. And he basically got me off the bed, and I had a knee brace on from my ankle to my thighs. This is about 3 months after the accident. I haven't walked. My leg is as thin as a bone, literally. Your muscles waste away so quickly. I didn't realize. And he held out both his hands, and he said to me, take a step. And I couldn't. My brain couldn't, correlate with my body. And he said, just take a step. And I just kept kind of shifting forward. And I was like, I can't do this. It was amazing that my brain just wouldn't let me do it. And he said, just take any step. And again, he said, just pick a leg. And I couldn't do it. And I looked at him and I said, you have to pick a leg and you have to tell me. So he pointed, I don't remember which one, pointed down to a leg and went, lift that one. And I guess hearing a cube, being told what to do, my brain went, okay. And I took this one step on my leg, and while holding my physio's hands at the same time, and I took another, and we took a few, and then he took one hand away, and took a few more, and then he took both hands away, and I stopped and I looked at him and I went, no. And he was like, you've just been walking fine. I was like, put your hands back. He was like, you've been walking fine. I said, put your hands back. And what he did next is he put them back out, but at a distance away from me. He said, they're here if you need them, but try not to use them. And again, I think it was a cue that my brain needed. And I took the step without his hands. And like that was beginning to learn how to walk again after what I'd been through. But fast forward to February 2022, so this is a couple of months later, I went back in for surgery and I had to have my ACL reconstructed. And bearing in mind, during all of this, I've quit my full-time job. I've hit rock bottom and 500 billion feet below. My body, my mind, my soul, my spirit, I just completely withered away. I disappeared off the face of the earth. Like, I didn't even tell a lot of people what happened. And then people would see me and be like, where have you been? Or what happened to you? It's weird how we deal with it. And then, yeah, I had my ACL surgery where they had to operate on both legs, which was really hard. Bearing in mind, only one was injured, but because the injured one was so battered, he didn't want to reconstruct a ligament by removing a ligament from that leg. So he said he had to take it from my strong leg because, it was the best, I begged him, but he said it was the best thing that he could do, unless I wanted, an artificial ligament, or, you can get a different ligament from like someone else's body. And I was like, no, I'm good. We'll do my own. And waking up with both my legs operated on to this day, and that's one of the hardest things to say. I knew it was coming, but you never get used to that. And even to this day, I sometimes forget that I've had knee surgery and relearned how to walk, and I've been through all of that. But basically, that was the shortest version of it.
Wow. Yeah, you definitely overcame a lot. So how many surgeries total have you had to date?
So with regards to my knees, I've had two, but even that was difficult. I was 25 at the time, and I was 25 years old having knee surgery. And whenever you hear about knee surgery, you never hear the best things about knee surgery, And I remember I was 25 years old, and I was like, why am I having knee surgery? This is going to be hell. This is going to be really, really, really tough. And it's funny because I actually didn't mention this, but the day after, and I don't talk about this one a lot actually, but the day after the accident, so I had an accident on the Monday, and then the day after, so about, I don't even know, just the next morning, I was in the car. I wasn't driving, obviously. I was in the passenger seat, and we drove past a bus. And all of a sudden, I remember kind of getting like hot sweats and not being able to breathe properly. And I thought that it was a combination of the painkillers and coffee. I genuinely thought I was having a painkillers and coffee, blood pressure thing. So we pulled over, and I think I had like 2 ice creams, a chocolate bar, like anything. And I felt a bit better. We carried on the journey. And then once we got to a destination, I was not feeling well again. But this kind of, I was getting short of breath, and I was kind of starting to black out a bit. And I had no idea what was going on. I don't know. Let's fast forward about 20 minutes later. I had this overwhelming feeling that I was dying. I can't even explain it to you today, but I had this overwhelm. And I remember turning to the people I was with, and I was like, I know I'm about to sound absolutely ridiculous, but I think I'm dying. And they were like, no, you're not. And I was like, don't tell me you think I'm not, because like my body's telling me I am. And again, it was this overwhelming feeling of I'm dying, but it was like a slow onset. And then fast forward, I'd say half an hour, maybe, I was having a full-blown panic attack. I thought I was having a stroke. My arms both went numb. My hands both went numb. I couldn't feel anything. My jaw went numb. I could hardly speak. My eyes were blacking out. I kept closing them. I couldn't breathe properly. And anything I could say was the bus. I kept saying the bus, the bus, the bus. And I was having, I've been told, a textbook panic attack. It was a textbook panic attack, and it was just horrendous, because when you're having a panic attack, you genuinely believe you are dying. That's one of the things. You either think you're having a heart attack or a stroke. I thought I was having a stroke, and you genuinely believe you are dying. Someone came over and said, is she okay? And I just remember being able to go, no. And they said, shall we call an ambulance? And my next words were, yes, I'm dying. So I'm in the back of an ambulance the next day on my way to the hospital. the same hospital. I've gone into the back of the two ambulances on 2 consecutive days. I get to the hospital, and it's funny because the doctor that was with me the day before was on reception, and he looked at me, and he knew, he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, the bus, the bus, the bus. And he just went, she's having a panic attack. And no one had said it to me before. But as soon as I heard that, within an hour to an hour and a half, I wouldn't say fine, but I was better. And it was terrifying because I then had another one the next day. Not as bad, but I had another one the next day. And I had to speak to a therapist about it because I was developing a fear of panic attacks. Because if you or anyone that's listening has ever had this, a full-blown panic attack, it is one of the worst things that you will ever go through, like ever, because you genuinely believe you're dying and your whole life flashes before your eyes. It's crazy. And my therapist said to me, the worst thing you can do, Talia, is develop a fear of panic attacks. Because if you develop the fear, as soon as you feel one coming on, your brain will go straight into it because you're so scared of it. So instead, she gave me a load of coping mechanisms and a load of techniques, because I've had onset ones since, and it's horrible and I hate it. And I don't know if that was the beginning of them, but I've had onset ones since in really random times, and I know they're coming. And I have to say, okay, panic attack. And I sometimes have still got to the stage where I've had to close my eyes because I think I'm dying, but I have to say to myself, this is a panic attack. And I'll just quickly mention, if anyone, just to say it, but if anyone does suffer with this or has been through this before, the things I were given were, if you can, grab a paper bag, breathe, do the deep breaths into it, or even if you can't cup your hands. But what you need to do, and I think this isn't just for panic attacks, it's actually when I think about it on a larger scale, for anything, anxiety, anything, you have to distract your brain. And by distracting the brain makes your levels start to come back. And she basically said to me, pick animals or countries, and from A to Z, go all the way through. And so I'm there going, America, Britain. That's just the only one I can think of. So bad. And you have to go all the way through the list, or fruits, apple, banana, and you go all the way through the list. And if you're still can't do it, you start again with it. And it's a fascinating tool and technique, because I think it doesn't just help panic attacks. I think it helps a lot of things to help you switch away from it. But look, to be honest with you, I haven't shared that a lot, so I thought I would share that with you today.
Yeah, I really appreciate you, being so vulnerable with this. Like, yeah, like this is really, like, we really appreciate that, because I'm sure that there are people like that maybe listening or watching that have, experienced a panic attack, or maybe, a surgery, or maybe even like a life-threatening, situation such as yourself. And I just want to say, yeah, thank you for making like the people that are tuning in feel comfortable knowing that they're not alone in that, and that there are ways that they can, work with somebody, like whether a therapist, a friend, to get through that the same way that you had got through yours. So do you still like ride a scooter to this day, or has that affected how you do mobile transportation, as far as like biking, scootering?
I won't touch a scooter.
Okay.
I
Fair,
won't
fair.
touch a scooter, because honestly, I feel like I tempted fate and death that day. Um, I I believe that if someone else potentially had that accident that day, they might not have survived it. Everyone can go through the same things and come out very differently. And maybe it's, I didn't have a helmet on. I was so daft. I know I didn't have a helmet on. If I'd fallen any other way, it could have been very, very different. Like, I'm very lucky to not just be walking. I mean, I've run a half marathon since, so, I can run and I can do all these things, but I'm also just very lucky to be alive. So no, I'll get on a bicycle, and I still like to do lots of different, things like that. But scooters, no, I'm good. I'm good.
No, for sure. No, definitely understandable there.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Trying to improve your skincare game? Guess what? I got a little something for you. You can improve the health of your skincare with the Vogue approved. Yes, you heard that right. Vogue as in Vogue magazines, the models. Yes, that Vogue. The Vogue approved beauty product, Herbal Face Food, the most potent anti-aging, multi-correction skincare product on the market. Yes. So hit that link in the show notes or video description and use our code SPHFF to get 20% off at checkout. Visit herbalfacefood.com to get started. That's herbalfacefood.com. All right. And use code S as in Sam, P as in pineapple, H as in Henry, F as in Frank, F as in Frank to get 20% off at checkout. That's SPHFF to get 20% off. All right. herbalfacefood.com. Okay. Y'all got the hookup. So let them know that Situaseans podcast sent you. All right. You are a broadcaster, so you're on TV all the time, and so what kind of broadcasting is sports broadcasting, and is there any other type of broadcasting as well? Tell us all about that. How did you get into that?
Yeah, so everything happened basically because of my accident. So I'm going to fast forward. Well, actually, because it all intertwines. So, it all intertwines. So in my first knee surgery, when I was off work for 2 weeks, heavily medicated on everything, I was still at my old job. I used to work in events, and I started writing. I just started writing for some reason. And the Sunday night before I was meant to go back to work on Monday, I called up my manager and I just quit my job. I have never quit my job without another job lined up in my entire life, and I just quit. Wouldn't always recommend it to people because, not every, you just wouldn't, but there was a feeling inside and I was like, I've got to quit. So I quit, and I wanted to be a travel journalist. I mean, I'm not, but I wanted to be a travel journalist. And then I'd say a month or two later, I was writing. I started to talk to a few of my friends who've been through their own stories. I have a friend of mine, she's a rock climber and she's blind. I had another friend of mine and these are all very early stories even on a blog. I have another friend of mine he's a paraclimber, and he had an accident and had a brain injury after the accident. From the accident, and I started to write their stories, and I started a blog, and I called my blog I Got Back Up. So this is about December 20, and he's got the dates right. December 2021, January 2023. I started this blog. Anyway, had the second surgery, stopped everything I was doing in my life again. It's funny because when I look back at that time as well, I'm not really sure what I did for like 8-9 months of my life. I just remember tracksuit bottoms and, darkness and potential, going to my physio and stuff. But it's interesting how such a big time frame, and I can't remember much of it. But anyway, and one day I used to record the people, while I was interviewing them like this, but on my phone, because I was transcribing them. And one day I was listening back to the interview and I was transcribing it, and I thought, wow, these need to be heard. There's so much more emotion when you hear someone rather than reading it. So I started a podcast. And believe me, I was never someone that wanted to start a podcast, but because of what I was listening to and the stories, I just thought these stories need to be heard. The people, I'm sure you get it as well. The people that were coming on, I was interviewing at the time, were so grateful I was giving them a voice. But then the people that were reading it were saying to me, wow, if this person can do this, it makes me want to do this. So I started the podcast. I Got Back Up. This was September 2022. And starting that podcast, I had major imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, for anyone listening, is just fantastic. That was so sarcastic, by the way. It is imposter syndrome.
It's rough. Yeah.
It's one of the most confusing things, because I'm a big believer of you're never given an opportunity in life unless you're meant to have that opportunity and you are ready for that opportunity. But does your brain know that? Most of the time, no. Because that's when a lot of us will then go, I'm definitely not good enough. I definitely don't deserve this. I definitely won't be able to achieve this. I will definitely fail. That's, believe me, I've had it so many times. I honestly, I can't even count how many times. And I remember starting this podcast just being like, I was cringing at myself watching those like first episodes back. But the reason why I wanted to do it was I wanted to share stories. I just wanted to share these stories. And I was doing that just for a year while I was figuring out the rest of my life, going through my physical rehab. It wasn't just a physical recovery, it was a mental recovery as well. I was learning a lot about myself in that time and going through a lot of my own personal things, which all have, helped shape me into who I am and continue to become. And then the following summer, I was like, right, I love interviewing and hosting and presenting, and I love sport. I love soccer. I'm going to say soccer here.
Yeah.
And what I did was, I'm an Arsenal fan. So I stood outside the Emirates Stadium, which is the Arsenal Stadium if people don't know. But I stood outside the Emirates Stadium for the first 4 home games of the season with my Bluetooth mics and my iPhone as my camera. My dad and my brother were my cameramen, and I just pulled fans in for interviews. Imposter syndrome, oh my God, like to the extreme. Asking people to like come in for my social media interviews. I was like, it was nuts. And it was terrifying. But amazing things happen when you're the other side of your comfort zone. Like the most amazing things happen when you're terrified. You've got to channel your fear into what you want. And fast forward, it was about 4 episodes in, or 4 games in. I reached out to Arsenal Fan TV, and 3 days later I was working with them. And that was around October 2023, so not long ago. And then fast forward a couple of months, Arsenal reached out, and it kind of just went from there. And then last summer, everything started to change. I started to work with TalkSport. I started to work with the NFL. I got an agent who's in America. And everything started to change from that. And you've got to, with all of that in mind as well, I think what people don't see is they don't see the hours where I would sit at home on my own crying or pulling out my hair or being like, I can't get anywhere, and why isn't this happening? And hours and hours and the emails, and my God, I've sent like over 500-600 messages on LinkedIn. So if anyone has got me on LinkedIn and I sent them a message during that time, hey, like, as in, I've met people in my work since where they've come over to me and they've gone, hey, you messaged me on LinkedIn a year ago, nice to meet you. And I was like, great, this isn't awkward. I was having a few times, but you've got to put yourself out there. And I think that's you've got to put yourself out there. But yeah, I was working with ESPN this weekend just gone for the FA Cup. And when I was younger, I used to watch ESPN in America when I was a kid. And there I am this weekend standing pitch side with a microphone with ESPN. So it's a lot of soccer, but like I said, I've done some work with the NFL, which was so much fun. The international games I was working at when they were at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the darts. It's been amazing so far, and genuinely, it's all happened because of my accident.
Wow. I got to give you like your props. We love that. Yes. Yeah, you're really good at networking, to say the least. Like that's awesome.
Thank you.
And to the folks listening, like, yeah, like I'm hoping, Talia's experience is kind of, is encouraging you all out there to network and reach out and to put yourself out there, because at the end of the day, these companies, like these employers, these networks, like they won't reach out to you because if they don't know that you exist. You got to reach out to them. You got to establish those connections and pursue like your dreams and passions the same way that Talia's doing. So yeah, love that.
Thank you. And just on that, actually, don't think anyone like message the CEO of a company, like send that email, because you never know, they may respond. Don't think that just because someone's so senior or it's a huge company that they're not going to see you. Like Arsenal Fan TV get so many emails. And I remember when I sent that email thinking, oh, it will go into a folder of, they replied the next day and I was working with them 3 days later. But if I'd let that whole, oh, I'm not going to do it, they won't see it sort of thing, get in the way, I would never have then got the job. And that's what I mean by don't be afraid ever to send a message. And but you know what? Not just in work, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit more, but not just in work, in everything in life. Like, send the message, whatever it might be. Reach out to whoever it might be. Just don't be afraid of things, because at the end of the day, you're so afraid that everything might go wrong. But what happens if everything goes right?
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That is the message of the day for sure. For sure. Even like with your podcast, so your podcast, I Got Back Up. I really love the title of that. I really love the setup of how you came to it. Can you share with our audience as far as like what a typical episode is like, and what kind of guests do you typically have on?
So I wouldn't even know what a typical episode would be like, because they go so many directions. I've cried, they've cried, I've laughed, they've laughed. But what it is I guess the premise is showing not just myself, the person that's talking as well, the guest, but also just everyone, that life is hard and life is challenging, and there are going to be really, really, really dark times. But you can overcome anything. You can burn, I say to myself, I say that I burn every aspect of my life to the ground, completely to the ground, when I went through what I went through. And I had two choices. And I think everyone, you have two choices. You either sit in the burning fire and you stay there and you think, I can't escape, I'm never going to get out of this. And it's really difficult. But the second choice, which is more difficult, is actually going, no, I'm going to get out of this. And standing up or crawling or dragging, however it is, and continuing to burn. Don't worry, you'll continue to burn, but making sure you're pulling yourself out of the fire, let's say, and taking it one day at a time, one pace at a time. And that's what the whole emphasis of my show is showing people, and myself. I think it was huge in my own recovery, physically and mentally, starting the podcast when I did, because everyone I spoke to gave me inspiration, gave me motivation, gave me tools and techniques, showing people that you can go through the toughest times in your life, but you have a choice and you can get out of them. Or it's not about getting out of them, it's reframing them, changing the narrative, learning how to adjust or overcome. And my life before my accident was so different. So I was so different. And everything that's happened since my accident, I genuinely feel like I've been reborn. I'm a completely different person. And it's being able to channel that as well, being able to look back on the past and your past story and whatever it is that you're going through, whatever darkness it is. And believe me, you have to sit in it sometimes. You have to feel the pain. You have to cry. Oh, I love to cry. You have to feel the pain. And that's okay. Like, sit in it for as long as you need, but don't stay in it forever. Whether that's friends, family, a therapist, like, ask for help, get help. And not just that, there are people all over this world, whether it's social media, whether it's even in your local gym or wherever it is, that can actually help you, because you're actually never alone in this. And that's one of the biggest things that have come from this show, is people realize that they are never alone. Because when you're going through what you're going through, you think you are so alone. You're the only person in the world that will be going through that. But actually, everyone goes through things very differently. But you can actually relate to a lot of people, even through what they've been through as well. So that's where it is, sort of thing.
What would you say to like other folks out there that, have a story to tell, such as yourself, that is like, well, I want to start a podcast, and like, and they kind of, to kind of talk about, my own, experiences, or, share experiences with other people that are going through things like, what are some words of wisdom that you would share with someone who maybe want to do something like what you're doing?
Oh my God, absolutely do it. Like, absolutely do it. I think it goes back to what I was saying before about imposter syndrome, or thinking you're not good enough, thinking that you can't do it. Like, I remember the first time I shared on my social media, I think Instagram and LinkedIn, the first time I shared on my social media that I had just launched a podcast, and I was like cringing at myself. I was like, oh my God, what is everyone going to say? What are my friends going to say? Honestly, when I look back, it's rubbish. What are my friends going to say? And what is everyone going to think? What I've learned since is that As long as it makes sense to you, it doesn't matter to anyone else. As long as it makes you happy, it doesn't matter to anyone else. As long as you want to do it, it doesn't matter to anyone else. I have had so many people in so many different walks of, okay, this is an example. I cosplay. I go to Comic-Con and I cosplay. I'm a cosplayer. I love it. I love it. I have a Captain America outfit that my best friend bought me sitting in my bedroom, and I'm going to be dressing up in it this weekend.
All
like
right.
yeah. I love it. But a lot of people will go to me, why do you do that? You know, if it's not Halloween, why are you into that? Or why do you do that? And my response is, why not?
Yeah.
And that is the example of what I was saying, is there will be people that will question why you enjoy doing something, why something makes you happy, why you want, just because they don't get it or they don't want to do it. Or maybe actually they do want to do it, but they're too scared to do it. You know, people are probably too scared to get on their local train station in a full Spider-Man catsuit and a blue wig. That's fine, but I'm not. I want to do it. And my point is you have to listen to people to some extent. Yes. Don't not listen to everyone, but pick and choose the advice and really understand, are people saying things because they, you know, everyone has, not everyone, a lot of people may have your best interest in heart, but you have to figure out, are also people saying you shouldn't do something because they're actually worried for you, they're fearful of you, they want to do it and they're too scared of it, you know, or are they genuinely doing it because they're horrible people and they don't want to see you succeed? Because believe me, there are people out there that are like that. So yes, listen to people, take on people's advice, but if you have a dream and you have a feeling inside, and even if it terrifies you, just do it. Just do it. And again, I just want to say another example, because I like using examples also that aren't about work. I'm a rock climber as well. I used to be a climbing instructor. I've lived like 500 lives already. I used to be a rock climbing instructor, honestly. And this was before my accident, and I was in the Dolomites, and I can't even tell you how many thousands of feet up this mountain. And we got to this point where the next bit was towards the top, and it could have been another hour or two, but it was so vertical and steep and tough. And I turned to my friend and I was like, I don't think I want to do it. I was terrified. And the drop was a sheer drop. I was terrified. And my friend went, that's fine. If you don't want to do it, we don't have to do it. And I looked at them again and I was like, yeah, but it's cool at the top, isn't it? To, like, you know, say you've been to the top. He was like, yeah, but if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. And I was like, okay. Like, can I have like a few minutes? And I walked away and I came back. And what I said to myself during those few minutes was, you are letting your fear get in the way. You're so scared of what might go wrong. But what happens if you get to the top and you know you've completed it? You've got to the top of this mountain, which you're terrified to do. And then you'll see the sunset, sorry. And in the end, I came back to my friend and I went, no, let's do it. And he was like, you sure? And I was like, I've got to do it, because I knew I had to do it for myself. I had to show myself that, yes, I was terrified, but I wasn't going to let the fear stop me. And that's what it incorporates into the question you asked is, we're all terrified. Believe me, we are all terrified a lot of the time. And I've spoken to a lot of athletes, you know, even today, professional athletes that are still scared before they go on a pitch or whatever they might be. We are all terrified of doing anything we're doing. I've even seen, you know, actors say, of course they get nervous, but you have to have that utmost belief in yourself that you are capable, that you may fail sometimes, which is, you have to fail in life. Believe me, you have to make mistakes in life. You have to. But if you're afraid of failure, you won't achieve. You have to do these things because you only learn and you only grow. And honestly, if you have a dream, just go and do it, because I don't think enough people follow their dreams personally. I think too many people live in their comfort zones and they don't follow their dreams. And it doesn't matter how wild your dream is, like if it's crazy and wild, great, keep dreaming it and dream even crazier and even wilder. And I love the phrase, if your dreams don't scare you enough, you know, dream even bigger.
Yeah, that's really good. I really like that analogy, and I really appreciate you just using like some of these, you know, real world experiences, because like, yeah, it's so relatable. And even just like in my own, like I guess, kind of creative vision is like, I started this podcast because I was, going through some dating things, and I was like, okay, dating on the apps is complicated. Like I've never had to do this before. Like I was like, what the hell is this? How do I navigate this? And it just started off as like an audio diary, like pretty much just, venting. I went on like a date and like this person like ghosted me after like the third date or whatever. They could have just said they weren't interested. Is anybody else going through this? Just rambling on, just talking about my own things. And then maybe after like the third episode, someone had like submitted like had emailed the podcast and said, hey, I'm going through this on like my dating journey. Can you talk about this on your podcast? I'd love to get your thoughts. Oh yeah, sure. I'll unpack it. And then other people started to submit their stuff. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I started to get other guests on because I was like, okay, well, I can only talk about my own dating experiences for so long before it gets boring. Let me incorporate guests and hear other people's experiences. And then like, yeah, other folks started to like contribute and yeah, the podcast is continuing to grow. Like I've been doing this for about 2 years now, but yeah, I love it. And yeah, outside of that, I do a lot of musical theater acting. I've been acting my entire life since kindergarten, and right now I'm in Los Angeles, and so like trying to like do some more auditioning out here since I just moved here about almost a year ago. We're originally from Chicago, actually, but yeah, like I love that, and then also make music. So every day I'm always trying to like do something new, incorporate something better, dream big, just as what you were saying, like you'll never know unless you do it. And it's better to have done it because at the end of the day, for our listeners, tuning in, it's better to like do it than to have regrets later on in life that you never got a chance to go for it.
It's that's the line. It's the that's it. It's regret. No, it's not even regret. You'd rather regret something you've done and known the outcome than say what if your whole life. I hate what if. I hate it.
Yes.
So believe me, I put myself in positions whereby I'm like, I'd rather it either work out or it not, so I can walk away and know, because I've had the what ifs and they have crushed me. And yeah, you'd rather know. And especially in dating, and everything in life, every closed door or every rejection or everyone that ghosts you sound like me and my best friend when we're like, why couldn't he just like say no? Why did he just not, why did he just stop replying? But every closed door is just a redirection to the right one that's meant to open next.
Absolutely. Yes. There you go. There you go. Are there any like stories from like any of your guests, like even on your like on your podcast that really stood out to you that was like, wow, this guest had really shared something and like this one sits with me in the best way possible because like I learned something from that one person?
Yeah, so there's one guest who, I mean, I learned stuff from all of them. So, but there's one guest, and I just love how he brought his real life experience into it. And he's a guy, he's called Derek Daly. So he was a Formula One driver back in the 70s and 80s. I mean, the cars are dangerous anyway, but this is back when they were just like driving death traps. I mean, they were, extremely dangerous. And he, had a terrible accident himself, and we were talking all about that. But the one thing that really sticks with me, and I just think it's fantastic, is he said to me that as a racing driver, you look back in the rearview mirror. You don't focus on the rearview mirror. You don't keep staring in the rearview mirror, but you glance back at it. Now, if you put that into life, if you constantly are looking back in the past, looking behind you, you will stay there, but that's not the direction you're going. You're going forward. So I look, and I get it. People need to, for different reasons. You do have to sometimes go back into the past, especially if you're in therapy and things like that, and you need to unpack things. But if you focus too much on the rearview mirror, and if all you do is look in the past, you're probably going to crash, first of all, but you're not actually going to go forward in life. You're not going to go forward because all you are doing is focusing too much on what's behind you, when actually you need to be in the moment and you need to focus on what's ahead of you. I just love that because we all look back in the past too many times, even on good things and bad things, and we focus on things way too much. I know, especially the negativity, but it's true. If you continuously focus on what's behind you, you never see what's in front of you. You never see what's coming forward. And life is, you have to be so open to life and the possibilities, because you never know where any day is going to take you. You never know who you're going to meet. And I say this as well in dating, and I say it to a lot of my friends. And I met a guy on an airplane once. Like, I've met people, yeah, I've met people in the most random of places. But I say that to my friends, and I say that to people. It's especially in this online dating world, which I don't like. But I say it, and this is for anything in life, whether it's romantic or jobs or anything. You never know every morning you wake up where your day is going to take you. You just don't. You really don't. Even if it's just going to the gym, you never know who's going to walk into the gym and try out the gym that day, or get on the same train as you. And that's what's so interesting in life, is every day is a brand new day. And don't ever think you're just stuck in the past or in what you've got going on, because literally miracles can happen any day, at any moment, at any time, wherever you are in the world. And when you want to relate it to dating, I mean, you can literally meet people anywhere. I know it's harder to say that, because I'm sure a lot of people go, no, you don't. And I know it's tough. The dating world is tough, but you actually can meet people in the most random of places. You just got to sometimes have the courage to say hi.
Exactly. Oh yeah. And if anything, I feel like we've reached the kind of like end point in dating where people rather meet in person in real life again rather than on the app. So yeah, we've it's made a
Yeah.
full circle for sure. What are some ways that we like that we as individuals can do to kind of transition like our lives and in extraordinary ways, as you put previously, where like even like when we feel like at our lowest points, how can we pick ourselves back up universally? Like what are some tips for that?
I think a really I think a really good point to note is that when you are in your dark times, it's okay to be in them. You hear some people say, get out of bed and get in the You know what? If you don't want to on one day, don't. If you want to stay in bed all day and cry, or, listen to sad music, or feel the whole world is, drowning you, that's okay, because you also have to feel your emotions. You can't push everything away. You can't even push the negativity away. You have to feel it. And I do that even now sometimes. Sometimes if I get anxious or uncomfortable or about something, I will sit with it. I'll get annoyed that I have it, and I'll try to get on with my day sometimes, but it cripples me sometimes still. And you have to just sit with it and be okay with it, because storms pass. Storms do pass. Every storm passes. Look, they can take a day, they can take a year, they can take much longer. I know that. But I think the first point to note is it's okay to feel crap. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel rubbish, but don't stay in it forever. And then there's different things that you can do. Self love is huge. People say things like affirmations or going to the gym or self care, whatever it is that you like. It is actually very important, because you have to love yourself. You have to love yourself. And I know there were times in my life when I didn't. And it's such a different way of life when you do learn to love yourself, because your whole outlook changes. But whether if you're someone that likes to go to the gym, it's doing these kind of tasks. Just go to the gym. Like, even if you feel so terrible, drag yourself to the gym, because even if it helps with your endorphins that day, whatever it is, I don't, everyone has different hobbies. If you like to paint, or if you like to swim, or whatever it is, you have to try to just take those first steps in doing that. Um, or even if it's meeting a friend for coffee, talking to people about things sometimes, we are our own worst enemies. And what goes on in all our own minds, a lot of our own minds are our own living hell. And sometimes we just need to talk to it. Sometimes we need to go out with a friend for coffee or for dinner, or I don't know, the theater, the cinema. You just have to get yourself out there. And there's so many different ways of doing things. Yes, but obviously everyone's stories are very different, and everyone goes through very, very, very different things. But I guess there's that knowing that you will get through this. And I promise you, there's someone probably listening that's probably going, no, I won't, because I've been there. Believe me, don't worry, I've been there. And they're thinking, no, I won't, this is rubbish, I'm not listening to this. I get it. but you will get through it. And again, I know things can be really tough, and I know things can be really difficult. And you probably, whatever it is, you're probably not going to come out of whatever it is the same person. You're going to come out a very different person. But that can be a really good thing. Um, and just, you learn a lot about, you learn a lot about yourself as well when you're going through these things. And this, again, it's for everything in life. But like I said, sometimes, yeah, stay in bed all day if you need to. But maybe the next day, if you want to, don't. Get up and have a coffee. Get up and have a shower. Drag yourself to the gym. Go meet a friend for coffee. Read, write, anything that helps to start to get you just out and doing something, because sometimes just being outside in the fresh air can just help change your mind. And look, to be completely honest with you, therapy is fantastic. And I know not a lot of people agree with it and a lot of people don't like it, and for their own reasons, but it's fantastic because, and it can really help, because what it does is it helps you, so many different things, but what it can help you do is it can help you reframe the thoughts that you've got. You need, you need to be able to reframe the narrative, reframe the thoughts. You need to be able to understand them and process them differently. And talking to a specialist who obviously, specializes in it really can help. And even when it comes to therapy, it gets harder before it gets better. You believe me, you're not going to go to therapy and be sorted in 10 sessions. It just doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. It has to get worse and harder before it gets better, and you have to be ready for that.
As someone who is in therapy, I agree with that. I can attest to that. It definitely helps. Because yeah, to your point, you have somebody who's not like, you have like a specialist who's trained in this, who has an education and a degree and certification in this, that has no personal investment or whatever in your life, as far as like, they can't be opinionated like the way friends and family are. And they can kind of help course correct and help you get back on your path. So yeah, thanks for calling that out. I really appreciate that too. Yeah, so if anybody is out there that's maybe thinking about going to therapy, definitely consider it. Like look into that. And yeah, like it is helpful. Like I said, like Talia, she's gone through it. I've gone through it. So yeah, if you all are on the fence about it, like yeah, here's two examples right here that's telling you from personal experience. Yeah, it helps. It really does.
Mm-hmm. It really does. So, and just on what you said, yeah, it's being with somebody that you don't actually know, because you can tell them things and there isn't judgment. And if they, if you're talking about someone or someone that they might know, your friends or family, whatever, they have an opinion already. But a therapist doesn't. They don't know the people you're talking about, and they can give you, without judging, without their own opinions, they just give you the advice that you need to help figure out what's going on in your mind. And that's why, yeah, finding a therapist. And look, obviously some people go to therapists that they do know, or friends and whatnot, but I'd probably say find someone that you actually don't know, or you don't have links to, or that your mum's dad's friend or cousin. Just, it's probably best to be so removed, because then you can, there's safety. There's so much safety in therapy, so much safety. And that's the key word. I think it's safety.
If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, can you do me a really quick favor? Can you please rate and review this podcast? Like hit that 5-star review, because, and I do read all the reviews, because this helps me know how this podcast is helping others, and how this podcast is serving you, because my job as a host is to serve you this podcast the way that you would prefer it to be. We got a few listener submissions, a few hinged or unhinged, prompts that the listeners submitted. Like, even though like, this episode we're talking about life experiences, but yeah, a few listeners wanted to submit a couple of things that they wanted us to unpack. So we'll kind of unpack these a little bit rapid fire style as best as we can. You ready to dive in?
Mm-hmm. I'm ready.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So the listener had provided like a little bit of a backstory. So the listener says, hot take. I think this is a green flag. Some people care a lot about social media views and quote unquote likes, but I don't care. I would rather be supported, complimented, and adored by my partner behind closed doors for my achievements, looks, or milestones. Signed, Real Connector. And so the prompt here says, let's make sure we're on the same page about social media. I'll never like your Instagram posts, but I won't like anybody else's either. So is that hinged or unhinged? Like, someone says like, yeah, I'm not going to like your post, but I'm not going to like anybody else's post. I'm just, just chilling, just doing me.
Well, then it's like, what are you doing? Are you just on there to scroll and just to like browse and to just, I mean, I guess I don't really get it, because it's like, well, if you're not going to like anything and you're just going to, is it just like a newsreel for you? Just go read the news instead.
Exactly.
I guess not that it's a whole validation thing, but when you're on social media, you like each other's things, don't you? Isn't, it's not that you need the support from social media, but I guess it's nice when your partner or your friend does like your post, doesn't it? So, and if you know that if you can see them looking at your story, but they're like, well, I'm not going to like anyone else's. It's like, but you're looking at my story, just like it.
Exactly, right. We can all use a little like slight dopamine, like a boost.
Look, so that's a hard. Social media is a very, very, very different topic, and the validation people get from it. But I mean, I think if they're going to say, well, I'm not going to like anyone else's, I'd probably turn around and go, well, then just like mine. Just like mine. Like, if we're in this together now, you got to like mine. That comes with
it. Exactly. This next one says, so the listener, they provided context on this one. They said, if you don't like dogs, especially golden retrievers, then you're a walking red flag. All of the other non-negotiables were fine, but not liking dogs is a deal breaker for me. Signed, #sorry not sorry. And so the prompt says, something that's a non-negotiable for me: will not eat cilantro or date anyone who has a golden retriever. Likes without comments will also certainly be ignored. Effort is key. If you have no intention to meet me in person, please go. This person sounds jaded, whoever put this on their profile prompt.
Yeah, I feel like if I read that kind of prompt, I'd be like, no, I'd go straight past it, because it's like there's like too much there. I feel like there's quite judgmental in that. First of all, I actually don't eat cilantro. I don't actually eat it. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. Like, it's a real thing. Apparently it's a genetical thing as well. Like, if you don't like it, I've like looked into it. I'm one of those. I don't eat it. I can taste it in anything. I can taste if it's in anything. I know it's in there. It tastes like soap. But anyway, I think if you're not a dog person, then like, what? Like, dogs are literally the most lovable things in the entire world. If you don't like a golden retriever, if you don't like a dog, what? Like, how I'd be like, no, sorry, bye.
Exactly, same. As someone who is a dog person, considering I have a husky, like Harley, she's the show's mascot. She's somewhere around here. But anyway, yeah, like as a dog owner, yeah, I agree. Like, this prompt is unhinged.
Because what happens, but what happens if you want to get a dog in the future and they're like, but you knew from the get-go I don't like dogs? And or sometimes if you have a dog and they come over and they're like, they don't touch it and cuddle it. And I genuinely think it can say quite a lot about people if they can't give a dog a cuddle. Like, I get it if you're scared, fair enough. If you're scared, fair enough, it's different. But there are some people that genuinely don't want to cuddle a dog. And I'm like, okay, then don't cuddle me.
Exactly. Oh yeah. This one I agree. Yeah, this one is definitely an unhinged prompt for sure. This last one says, and so the listeners, they provided context. The context says, yellow flag. What does he mean he's like an old man? Is it a green flag because he's mature, thoughtful, and wise? Or a red flag because he's tired, cranky, set in his ways, or doesn't have any stamina? I need answers! Exclamation point. Assigned, will you be my sugar daddy? So the prompt says, dating me is like dating an old man. That's all this guy says. Dating me is like dating an old man.
So I would read that and I would say he's boring and doesn't go out. I would literally read that and be like, that's what this is, and I'm not signing up for that.
Exactly.
Because but that's how you would perceive it. But I know guys who and women who are significantly older than me that probably party even more than I do. I wouldn't read that as he's telling me he's wise and mature and all of those things. I would be saying that he's dead boring and likes to go to bed at like 8 p.m. and, you know, yeah, I'd be like, no, I'm okay, thank you.
Exactly. Same. I'm with you on that one. If I saw that and someone is just like, oh yeah, I'm just an old person, I'm just, really retiring in for the night, I'm like, all right, well, you go do you. I'm going to do me. Swipe left.
100%. 100%. I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm okay, thank you. What happens if I want to go to Ibiza in the summer? You're not coming with?
Right. I get the vibes that this is the type of person that's like in bed during like the fireworks of New Year's Eve or whatever, during the ball drop.
Yeah. No. They're the person that goes, I hate New Year's Eve. I'm not going out.
Exactly. Yeah, we agree. That one, that one prompt is definitely unhinged as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the listeners for submitting those. Talia and I, like, those were definitely entertaining for us. We loved unpacking that for you. And yeah, Talia, thank you so much for coming on the show and just blessing us with your words of wisdom, sharing your experiences, sharing us with us about your podcast. Can you share with our listeners? Let us know where we can find you, where we can find your podcast. Share all the Instagram, handles and all that stuff. And yeah.
Yeah, so you can find my podcast on it's I Got Back Up, and it's on I Got Back Up on Instagram, Twitter, X. Sorry, I still call it that. You can find it on there. You can find it on TikTok as well. But you can also, we have a website called igotbackup.net. But also, if you went onto Instagram on the I Got Back Up, the links there as well. And I've got about maybe like 80 episodes, and I guess the beauty of it, which I'm sure you have as well, is every person and guest is so different. So every story is so different. And every journey is so different. And you pick what resonates with you when you want to listen to it. So you can find it on there. And if you want to find me, I'm just my full name everywhere, I think, as well. Just at Talia Lazarus.
Wonderful. And if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you just saw her social handles and everything pop up on the screen. And for those of you that are listening to the audio version only, you can find all of the links down in the show notes and description. Awesome. So whether you're on a boat, a plane, a train, hey, maybe you could be one of Talia's friends. You can take Situaseans podcast with you wherever you go. We are everywhere. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube page. Subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Situaseans podcast to get all the behind the scenes content. And there are 3 ways that you can submit to this podcast. If you want to submit your dating app screenshots, questions, anything you want me and a guest to unpack, situationspodcast.com/submit. Or the second way, email the podcast, situationspod@gmail.com. Or the third way, call the hotline, 312-586-2664. It is an anonymous hotline. You don't have to worry about me answering it. Just, go ahead, leave your voicemail there. We'll unpack it on the podcast. And with that, I will see you all back here for the next episode in a couple of weeks. Woo!